Hello, hello, hello again. And yes, I'm going to say good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I messed it up. But whatever it is, whenever it is, it's good. It's good because we're here, you're here, I'm here, we are here, and we're doing this thing. And we're getting it what? Say it with me. Together. Why? Because that's what the devil hates. That's what the world hates. And I mean by the world, I don't mean everybody on the outside and, mom and pop and brother, sister, friends, and everything. No, I'm talking about the world that wants to keep us down, that wants to keep us sick and keep us divided and keep us trusting in something that is flawed and ain't going to get no better. So let's come together, folks. Um, I'm strengthened by God. So I'm pumping out another episode today. I just finished episode 5. It's processing. This is going to be episode 6, and this is I'm almost out of coffee, and I shouldn't get another one, but yeah, I just might. Anyhow, sad but true. That's what I'm going to focus on this one. And excuse me, my tummy is not very happy with me because it heard me talk about getting another coffee. Let's open the episode with what? A little word of prayer. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to crank out another episode. May the words flow freely from my face, from my lips. May they flow from my heart, from my soul. May they flow from you, God. Please let these words, let this video land on the eyes and ears and hearts of someone, anyone, everyone who may be in need of these words, this encouragement. Let it entertain, let it provoke thought, let it bring calm and peace overall to anyone and everyone who takes the time to watch and listen. I thank you so much. It's in Jesus' name I pray and I thank you. Amen. Now my neighbor wants to start mowing the lawn. Can't win. No, it's all good though. And it sounds like freaking Ringling Brothers upstairs. So we're going to do our best here. All right. There's no reading involved at the moment. So I'm going to try to go without the specs, cut down the glare. If anybody wants to send me an awesome key light, I will be forever thankful, forever grateful, and I will shout you out. I will put your name in lights as best as I can, and thank you for the contribution to the cause, to the episode. Just know that you're helping do Lord's work, and I appreciate it. So sad but true. Lord, guide me in this. I don't script things too much. The closest thing I come to scripting, well, besides officiating a wedding, but the closest thing I come to scripting anything is writing notes. And I found this: I can write notes, jot notes down on my little my post-it notes, and I'll stick it to the bottom of my monitor, and I can keep going. Thank God I found a way, because this thing sometimes don't work. Other times, I think I blame ADHD. And the fact that my brain goes a lot faster than what my hand could go. My mouth can barely keep up with it. So if I were to script something, I can go back 5 minutes later and try to read what I wrote. No, it's not happening. It might as well be ancient Sanskrit, as far as I'm concerned. I should have been a doctor with the handwriting that I have. Why are you not doctor? Because my handwriting is not bad enough. Anyhow, so I hope and pray that as I do this thing free flow, as I freestyle this, that again, and as always, Jesus take the wheel and help me. But yes, sad but true. I am a firm believer, and even before I made my triumphant return to the church, that we meet the people that we meet, we hear the things that we hear, and we see the things that we see for a reason. Okay, to the non-believers, this is going to make sense to you as well. To those who believe, and you can take. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying take faith out of everything, but in so many scenarios, you can, set aside a person's spiritual beliefs and show them that these things happen not just for a spiritual reason, but a reason to help better you, to better us. What, I work for like air traffic control or something? I figured that out a long time ago. I may have cried out at one point, why do we keep running into these people? Why do we keep, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean any to insult anybody in this. It's how I spoke as a younger man. It's how I spoke as a frustrated younger man. But I would ask, why do we keep meeting? And please forgive me if I slip up and swear. I've been making strides in cleaning up my potty mouth. So if it comes out, I'm just flowing here. We always seemed, and by we I mean my wife and I, are a magnet. And at one time, and I think this is why we stopped going out a whole lot, a magnet for dirtbags, junkies, scumbags, liars, thieves, booze hounds, drunkards, and we're just trying to raise a family and keep a roof over our heads. And we will meet somebody and like, oh, this is cool, and then we find out, as I mentioned in the prior episodes, layers of that onion keep getting peeled and peeled back, and the truth is revealed, thank God. But we see these people, we meet these people, we hear these things for a reason. And the reason is that at some point in our life, we're going to need to recall that. At some point in our life, something is going to come up, something's going to happen where these instances, these conversations, this whatever it is that we saw or heard is going to, that makes sense. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. These things serve to build us up. And if we don't use them as a stepping stool, as a stepping stone, if we don't use that as a building block to better ourselves, to prepare ourselves for what comes down the road, then we're doing ourselves a great disservice. Man, we've two people come to mind, even though there's a lot more of them. Two people come to mind a lot when I think about this, the sad but true. The sad but true. It's sad that we've had to have interactions with some of these people, and the one it's screaming so loud right now was an apartment manager that we had in town. If anybody from my area, from my little town here, is listening, and if you're in the business district and you rent or you manage property along the main thoroughfare, Broad Street, I think you have a pretty good idea of who we're talking about. Okay. This guy was for lack of a better term, a POS. I don't know how he is now, but I know how he was then and what we dealt with. And, he had said some things that really torqued me, but being a mid-20s-year-old man working two jobs, raising at that time two kids, and trying to keep a couple of cars and keep a roof over our head, I was in no position to argue with this, because he pretty much held our living situation in the palm of his hands. Even though he was the apartment manager, he had a landlord to answer to, but the landlord was not much better. In the end, They cheated, they robbed, and they stole from us. And, you know, they can go pick flowers, they can go pound sand, but the things that these people had said to me, the things that these people had said to my wife, the things that they had said to other people in town, trying to get us rolled up in the same crap that they have made for themselves. You know, it angered me at one time, and I thank God that I didn't use it, that I didn't let it control me, and I didn't let it grow and manifest and cause me to do something that I was going to regret. I did fight back as I got a little older verbally, and once I realized that the one advantage I have over at least the apartment manager was a mental strength, I just went in there with, you know, my brain sleeves rolled up, ready to tussle with the mind. The fight is up here in the grain. And that's what I used. Thank God. I so bad want to give out the information so people don't make the same mistake we made and hook up with these people. But anyway, our apartment was on Broad Street, and one of the things I would like to do in the summertime, especially, used to smoke back in the day, smoke cigarettes. So we would go outside to smoke. And if I was coming home from work, my second job was a few doors down at the local bar, and it was called the Broad Street Pub at that time. Shout out to all the Broad Street Pub employees that we rocked with. Man, we had some crazy nights and mornings. Anyway, you know, if I got done work early, I'd come home, you know, walk across the street, hit Wawa, get a coffee, come back to the apartment, ring the bell or knock on the door, whatever it was. I probably called my wife, and, you know, summertime, she'd come to the window. She would hang out or if it was me, you know, we would hang out the upstairs window and chit chat with, you know, our significant other, hanging out on the sidewalk under the window, having a smoke, having a cigarette, you know, just chilling, you know. Sorry. And it was cool. It was fun. You know, we had a good time doing that. But this apartment manager behind our backs was going around telling people that she was locking me out of the apartment, and we were arguing on the streets, and the police are never called on us. On him and the people that he hung around with quite often, Gene. It was embarrassing, you know, that this lowlife was trying to drag us down into his muck and mire as well. How dare you, sir? Let me mess up my own stuff myself. You know, I can only imagine the things that he's told people that we didn't hear and we didn't know. This dirtbag one day decides to, oh boy, and the police had a blast when they found out, you know, they thought maybe it was just this little one-on-one thing, and, you know, but when they found out that he had followed us, he stalked us one day and then cut me off in traffic to yell at me about something that I allegedly did. I had nothing to do with what he said. He was accusing me of saying something on Facebook about him. I said nothing about him. And then he threatened my son, who was underage and is handicapped. So I'm like, all right, say no more. Oh, I went into Karen mode. Phone right away. Didn't even get the landscape. I'm portraiting it. Keep talking, dude. What else you got to say? And he tries to roll the window up and take off real quick. Man, I called the police on his ass. The police know him in this town. All right. So if you're known, it's not because you're a good guy. It's because you're a problem guy. All right. You know, this kind of person spreads lies, and we haven't even lived there in close to 7 years. And he's going to pull this crap and threaten my son, cut me off after following us around town and follow me to my home. Oh, no. Woo. But it's because of the things that he said and he's done to me and about my family that I use that to build up my wall, to not do these things. to not fall into their traps, to not, to quote somebody, when they get low, we go lower. No. When they go low, I stand firm and I stand above. I rise above. Let them go low. I go higher. Yes, and I know my thumbs are curved. That's so, and I use that to prepare myself to build myself up for later events, whether it be in my life, my wife's life, our life together, one of our children's lives, a situation at work, whatever. So in a way, I thank that jerk, because you've only made me better. You've only made me stronger. You've only made me be able to warn businesses that want to rent your empty spaces, and I could tell them you don't want to, or I could tell them to be prepared because the management team is less than favorable. The town doesn't want these people here. Okay. Unfortunately, my little town is becoming overrun with unsavory characters. So back to it. Let's stay on track. Lord help me. Sad but true. This one might get a little hairy. Personal experiences. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I had more friends as I got older. I had a very small circle. But that was my circle. We did everything together, man. Sports, although I didn't play football. And I was benched the entire baseball season. That's another subject. But we did school, we did sports, we hung out, we birthdays, weddings. As we got older, birth of children, new jobs, new cars, new place to live, moving here, moving there. We did everything together. There's one person in particular, we didn't know, but I should say we didn't know right away, but we found out they had developed a problem. When the problem became known to us, of course, we all wanted to help. And knowing the addict mind, I was immediately I was upset when I heard this person say, well, I can't go to an inpatient facility because I have children. In my past, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to tell you why, I've had to seek help. All right, I will tell you why. I spent a week in a hospital for mental health, and there were plenty of options. There was, of course, there was counseling, there was therapy that I could have done, and all this. At the point that I was at, and I was so sleep deprived because of the shift that I was working, I needed rest. I needed rest and guidance is what I needed at that time. And I knew it wasn't going to come from, once or twice a week visits to a therapist. It wasn't working. I needed intensive. I needed hands-on. But when I heard this person say that and I had kids too. Everything we did, It was almost as if it was planned. You know, you got this, and I got that. You got that, and I got that. Um, but I knew in my heart is, if you want to get help, you want to get fixed, you want to get changed, you want this to, to take off, and you want things to get better for you, then you drop everything and go balls deep, balls to the wall, and get what you need. But he wasn't doing that. So there were times of this quick outpatient outpatient treatment that would last for so long, and then the wheels fall off again. That brings me to another thing. Some of these outpatient things, all they do is get you hooked on, if you come in and your problem is drugs, they get you off the illegal stuff and get you on their legal stuff. And the government benefits from, you going to or being on a methadone treatment or a Suboxone treatment or whatever else is out there. They're just trading one drug for another, one that you're not paying taxes on, and then one that you are paying taxes on. It's a mess. Don't start, kids. Do not start ever. Ever. Just say no. Okay. Sad but true. This person was breaking his family's heart. I don't know if you've lived with anybody, or should those who have grown up with alcoholics, or people dependent on alcohol, dependent on drugs, whether it be prescription or street drugs, whatever. This had gripped them. It gripped them hard. They weren't the same person, and they were putting on quite the air for a while. Even when we thought everything was copacetic, it was one little change in plans, and this person gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. Hand in everybody's cookie jars. It was painful to watch a family go through this. Not just parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandmothers, but his children, their mother. It was terrible. Sad but true. This person has done what they've done to themselves, to whoever, or whatever, while I was in that hospital that I voluntarily checked myself into. I get a phone call, and it was on these things called payphones, kids. It used to be these great big cell phone looking things stuck to walls with the receiver and a cord on it. So I get a phone call. I don't know who's calling me. This is weird. So I go get on the phone, and it's this person. And I know I was there for a week. I was supposed to be there for a week, and I believe I was 3 days in. And I had said, man, I just realized I can. Now this is where my mind was at the time. I can sign myself out of here and go on home. They're not really doing anything with me. All I'm doing is, they got me on sleep, a better sleep pattern, which was kind of screwed up because I was working third shift at that time. So anyway, I'm on a normal sleep thing, a better diet, and a little bit of counseling in a group. Mind you, the group that I was in, these people were hearing voices. I wasn't hearing voices. Man, it was a crazy, but that's another episode. God help me. This person tells me to stop thinking like that. This person says, "You're there for 7 days." I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Just because you didn't get what you feel you should have gotten by day 3 doesn't mean you're not going to get it by day 7. Powerful. We get the greatest messages at the oddest time from the most left field of places. Noah was a drunk, and look what God, you know, charged him to do. And that made me say, okay, this makes sense. As I'm standing there in the hospital, I've got the phone in my hand, I'm covering the receiver. Man, I didn't expect that to come from him. Not now. What the heck? Damn. Okay. All right, that's good news. Maybe I will stick around. Mind you, it's not like I drove there, okay? I could have signed myself out, and then what? And we stand on the side of the road trying to tell somebody to come pick me up. Derp. My cell phone was locked up at the time, and granted, it was probably dead. The battery was probably dead anyway from 3 days off the charger. So, I definitely was not thinking correctly. I was so sleep deprived. If you don't have to work third shift, don't do it. Lord, please don't do it. But I had to, so I did it. So yeah, that was key. That was key in me staying and getting hopefully getting what I needed. As day 7 came and went, I don't feel that I really got anything because I ended up telling these people what they wanted to hear, because you know how to play the game after you've been around the block enough with goofy thoughts. You know how to make the things work for you back then. Thank God I am no longer that person, and I am no longer in that frame of mind. So the only game I'm playing is the game of life, baby. And maybe some Call of Duty. Check me out on Twitch. Sad but true. Years go on, and I and this other person drift apart. It was a trust issue. It was a safety issue at the time. I didn't have, and I've never had a. There was a time when I drank too much, but it wasn't a causing a problem. But at that time, I was drinking, to catch a buzz. I didn't get drunk intentionally because oh my gosh, the morning after. But I would, drink. I had no limits on what I could do. As far as drugs go, I never did anything more than marijuana, as you can probably get the hands right. Anyway, but I couldn't and wouldn't feel right doing my thing in front of somebody who's no longer doing that thing. I didn't feel right having this person come over to my house, because I was on a litany at that point of prescription medication. Who's to say that this person isn't going to get into them and take what I need and do whatever else with it, or take what's been prescribed to me and take it for themselves and get sick, and die from it. I had to separate myself from that person in what I felt was an act to help save themselves. I had another friend in town who's now passed, who got their lives together at one point. And part of getting their life together was moving away from here and away from the problems. And they went to Florida. Comes back up from Florida one day to surprise my wife and I. He says, "Hey, I'm in town." And we're talking. We knew this kid from the time he was in diapers. My wife in particular. He looked great. He sounded great. He, everything. When somebody's doing right, everything looks great. When someone's living wrong, you can see it, and it's all over them. He looked great. Said, "So what are you doing while you're up here? You're going to visit your mom?" And, "Yeah, I'm going to see my mom real quick, and then I'm going to go over to my buddy's house and do this." And my wife and I are just like, oh boy. So you're going to go right back to the guys that you were running around with and doing dirt with. Don't you see that you were removed from all this and your life improved. You're coming back for a visit and you're visiting the same den. You're going back into the lion's pit like John Wick. John, if you dip as much as one toe back into this water, you're not getting out of it. And sure enough, he hung out with that guy, with the friends, of yesterday, of yesteryear, and he didn't make it back to Florida in time. He lost the job that he had down there, and he went right back on his ways. Fast forward a couple years later, we're out one summer evening having a good old time with friends and family, and we get a call. Robert's passed. My wife says, "Get the F out of here." And I could hear the person on the other line, on the other end of the phone. She says, "No, he's gone. I'm at the hospital. He's gone." Wow. My children knew this person. My wife knew this person from the time they were in diapers, and now they're gone. Sad but true. I saw him come up in a tumultuous life. I saw him come up in a very, very dysfunctional family. And it's generations long. And we always knew that he would be the one that could break the cycle, the vicious cycle, garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. And when he moved to Florida and got himself together, we were like, this is it. He broke the cycle. He's going to do this. We knew it. We knew you could do this. And then he came home and started hanging with the people again that he got away from. And so in this person's life and death, in this person's blueprint they left behind, it was there to show me that, every step you must make carefully, because deceit, wrongdoing, the devil, whoever, all of it, whatever, is very sneaky and can disguise itself as anything. And if you dip as much as one little pinky back into that pond, that gator going to come up and get you. It's going to get you. It's going to drag you back in. It's going to pull you down to the bottom. It's going to death roll you. And it ain't going to let go until it's done with you. When it's done with you, you're done. You're dead. It's just a shell of flesh and bone. And he never really recovered after that. Back to the drinking, back to the drugs, and most likely it was a drug overdose that took his life. The family will never, we're not going to get into that. They'll never admit. So, but we know. Sad but true. So even though this person was younger than me, it was God's messenger telling me, watch your step. If I remove you from a situation, do not return to that situation. If you dance around that pond, do so with vigilance. Put your cleats on, get a walking stick, and don't go near that river's edge. Don't go near that water's edge. It's a slippery slope. If I've pulled you out of the fire once, learn from that. Go forth and sin no more. I understand temptation. I understand it. And when, when you live a life the way you lived it for so long, stopping it abruptly is it's hard. It's a test. It's a test. But now that person's gone. There's 2 children that don't have a father. And he loved kids. He did. I do know that one of his sons, I guess in the last 2 years, graduated the police academy, which is ironic because this person was far from, and this person's father was far from police material. They could have spent so much time together. You know, one breaking the law, the other one upholding the law. You know, um, man, he's missed. He is missed. All his finer points, and he did have lots of them. He did have lots of finer points. He looked out for other people, like his mother. Um, man, he was an all right guy, but drugs and alcohol, folks. Man, alcohol alone, no, yuck. So, you know, why did he pass at tender age? I believe he was maybe 31. Um, we have to take these things we see and hear in life as a message, as a warning. We need to file these things and keep it, in our filing cabinets. Um, Not one of those steel trap filing cabinets, but one that you can see through, so you can easily, finger through the index through everything and pull out. Aha! That's why I knew so and so. That's why this was said. That's why I heard about this. That's why I heard about that. Sad but true. The children of this one person I speak to, I spoke of. I am still, thank God, in contact with, and I am in their lives. Thank you, God. When the cousins, we call them, get together, my kids and his kids, sometimes the conversation turns to what this other person had done in their life, and how it's affected the children. I didn't have to say it the one day, but as a parent, I was prepared to drop the message at one point, and it was this person's youngest who had said, if it weren't for him, if it weren't for my dad, I would never have met you guys. And that, from the mouths of babes, thank God, that really highlighted my then theory of, we meet and hear these people, we hear these things, we see these things for a reason. And at first, the reason may not be easily seen or known, but it will be revealed at some point. Stay vigilant. Sad but true. If it wasn't for this person in my life, I wouldn't have had the life that I've had. I wouldn't have had a piece of advice to stay in the hospital and get whatever it is. Wait to see if I get what it is that I feel that I should get. And I believe that was God speaking through this person. Let me preface all this by saying, and I'm sure because these kids are brilliant, I don't need to say it, but I remember being told as a younger person, despite what our parents or our fathers or our mothers, whoever raised us, have done, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. There is a level of respect that needs to be shown concerning these people. And when this young lady said, if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have known you. I wouldn't have known, our cousins. I wouldn't have known our aunt. I wouldn't have known any of this. And I think back to what this person knowing this person has brought into my life birthday parties, Christmas parties, holidays. His family took me in as one of their own. Um, I didn't look like them. I certainly don't look like them. I didn't sound like them. I didn't dress like them. But they took me in. No questions asked. His grandmother, his parents, Christmas, graduation, birthdays, there was always a card. Um, Vacations, weekends, um, you know, camping in Maryland, heading out in the Chesapeake Bay on a boat, trying to water ski, campfires, lighting them, peeing them out at the end of the night, concerts, bar fights, which ironically he didn't get into, but I was drinking and I would jump into a fight that I had nothing to do with just to be in it. Um, Lesser qualities of my life. Um, Phillies games, working together, man. 1994, when the other copy of Clerks suddenly, because they only had two copies at Blockbuster. Ironically, it was the Blockbuster that we worked at. When the second copy reappeared one day, more people in town started watching it, and the gentleman that we were working with at that time was from North Jersey and was familiar with, thank God for Kevin Smith. He was looking at us going, oh my God, you guys are Jay and Randall. Or you guys are Randall and Dante. And then he's looking back, wait a minute, you guys are like Jay and Bob. Yeah, and I'm like, I'd like to think of ourselves more like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, but we were the two amigos. We worked together. We did everything together. And without that person, my life would have been a lot emptier. Without this person, I would have missed. Oh my God. Graduations, birthdays, just random get-togethers. I would have missed a beautiful wedding. I would have missed a beautiful sight of all my children. I love his kids as if they were my own. So when people ask how many kids I have, I tell them 5. I would have missed watching them dance in the rain. I would have missed an incredible wedding. I would have missed watching 2 incredible children grow up to be fascinating young adults, one of which is his own. He's running his own business. Okay? Sad but true. Without these people, these times, these things that have happened to us in our lives, if we choose to let them sink in and destroy us instead of keeping it on a shelf and using it as bricks to build ourselves up to get over these things, if we didn't use them to brick off particular people and their antics, if we didn't use these things in a positive light, it would have would have dragged us down either with them or drug us down into our own pits. Man, as a kid, there was a time when, I was upset with my dad and, I'm going to say cussing him out, but I was talking to my mother, so I know I wasn't cussing. And my mother and my grandmother reminded me that is your father. Despite this, despite that, there is a level of respect that needs to be shown, because without him, my mom wouldn't have me. My grandparents wouldn't have had me. My grandparents loved me to death. And I miss them. I miss them so much. I got one left. And she hasn't forgotten me. 101 years old. For 101 years, she's been holding on to God's unchanging hand. Without this person I'm cussing out, my cousins wouldn't have had me, and I wouldn't have had time with my cousins. Sad but true. There is a reason why we see and hear these things, why we meet these people, why these people become a part of our lives for some period of time, for some reason, for whatever. Despite what they've done, I thank God that these people were in my life because they've made me a better person. They've made me want to be a better person. They made me aware of myself at times. They made me care more and want to be not just the better person I want to be, but to really take inventory in myself and make sure that I'm being the change that I want to be. Gandhi said that. Be the change you want to see. Man, it's such a double-edged sword. If I was a swordsman, I think my broadsword I would name Sad But True, and it would be a double-edged sword, because in truth, in sadness, there's truth, and in truth, there's sadness. But it's our duty to rise above the sadness and use it for goodness, use it for bettering ourselves and others. Whew, man, I thank God for this time. I thank God for that person. I thank God, and I pray that this person really, really gets the help they need for themselves. There's things I'm not going to get into, but I hope where this person's at, that they do finally get the help they need. And I'm not just talking about, a release from the bonds of addiction, but help from the bonds of whatever else is afflicting this person. And moreover, I pray for the people that have been left in this person's wake, or anybody like these people that I've spoke about. The victims, the hearts that were broken, the trust that was stolen, the innocence that have been taken, the things that could have been and weren't because of this. But again, sad but true. Man, if it wasn't for this person, I this one person in particular, I couldn't be the uncle that I am. I wouldn't have been the father that I am now, the husband that I've become. Man, woo, a double-edged sword. Boy, does it cut deep, and slow. By no means, I don't condone the negative things that these people have done. Not at all. I'm just highlighting that even the worst of us have provided a diamond in all that doo-doo. Diamonds and all that crap. Wow. It's just powerful stuff. I'm going to cut it right there because I have to tinkle. I have to use the bathroom. Thank you so very much. Whether you're finding this on Spotify or YouTube, please leave a comment, leave a like, share it. Let me know that you're interacting with it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. My homework, Our Daily Bread. My profile is The Token Saint, TOKIN SAINT, lowercase s, because I'm an ain't. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging in there for over 50 minutes. And, well, kids, until next time, everybody be good. I love and I thank you all. And I'm offline. Great day in the morning.